What does your mechanic mean when he tells you that your mass airflow sensor is dead? And what are the signs and symptoms that you have a bad mass airflow sensor? So today we're going to be doing this video on this Toyota Runnix with the 2ZZ engine. This is a naturally aspirated petrol engine, but the information that I'm about to give you also applies to diesel engines as well. So what are the signs and symptoms that you have a bad mass airflow sensor? Before we get into the signs and symptoms, let's talk about what the mass airflow sensor is so that you can better understand what happens to your car when this sensor stops working correctly. So basically, a mass airflow sensor is found on any internal combustion engine that has electronic fuel injection, and what it does is measure the amount of air that's coming into the engine. So for your car to run efficiently, for your car to be able to run perfectly and idle and do all those things, it's supposed to have a perfect balance of air and fuel mixture. So what the mass airflow sensor does is it passes information to the ECU or computer box, telling it how much air is coming into the engine, and then with that information your ECU is able to determine how much fuel it needs to pump into the engine to give you the most efficient drive that you can get. So the stoic mix, or the perfect balance of fuel and air on petrol engines, is 14.7 to 1, and I like to think of it like diluting juice. When you put juice in a cup, you've got 1 part of the juice and then you get 14.7 parts of the water to make that perfect blend. So basically that's what the MAF sensor does. It passes information to the ECU about how much air is going into your engine, and using that information the ECU can determine how much fuel to add to give you the perfect mix to give you maximum power from your engine. So where is the MAF sensor located? On pretty much every vehicle it's located on the intake of the car. So this one I removed from here, you can see it's right there, and pretty much any car that you check you will find that your mass airflow sensor is found somewhere where either you have a cone filter or you have the air box where you place your air filter. Then your MAF sensor will be found right around this location. Now that we know what a MAF sensor does and where it is located, let's talk about some of the problems that come with a bad MAF sensor. So the first symptom that you might notice when your MAF sensor is gone is that your car is going to have a high fuel consumption. If your MAF sensor is not able to pass the correct information to the ECU about how much air is coming in, then sometimes your engine might overcompensate and put in more fuel where it's not supposed to, and that ends up giving you bad fuel economy because it's not getting a perfect blend, and you end up having the car running more fuel in the system than it is supposed to. The second symptom you might notice is the car stalling or the engine going off randomly, and this can be as the car is idling or even as you are coming to a stop. When you're driving, you notice that the car all of a sudden just goes off. That might be a sign that your mass airflow sensor is not working correctly. And basically what's happening there is, just like I explained, if it's not giving the right information to the ECU about what amount of air is going in, the engine might be putting too much fuel or too less fuel. So the conditions change as you are driving. So as you're driving, the car might seem like it's okay, but you're trying to come to a stop. The air fuel ratio has to change for that condition of you slowing down and reducing the revs on the engine. So then if it can't account for that change because the mass airflow sensor is giving wrong information, then you have your car going off all of a sudden, and also you have a situation where there's loss of power. Another sign you might see is kind of a similar thing. You will be getting hesitation. So for example, when you come to a stop at a four-way or even at a traffic light, and now you decide to take off and you press the accelerator, and you find that the car hesitates before it actually picks up and gives you the power that you want. That could be a sign of a bad mass airflow sensor. Like I was saying, if the car is parked and the conditions are changing that you actually want it to move, it doesn't detect correctly that you have stepped on the accelerator and you're giving the car more air, and it ends up throwing more fuel in there, giving you that hesitation. So you notice the car hesitating as you're trying to take off. That's another sign that your mass airflow sensor could have a problem. The last thing you might notice is some black smoke coming out of the back of your car. And I know, it might start to sound repetitive, but yes, the mass airflow sensor needs to detect how much air is coming in to get the correct fuel mixture. So if you've got a bad mass airflow sensor, that might, you know, cause the car to pump in more fuel than is needed, and then you will see that as black smoke in the back. That is called a rich mixture, when the car gives you more fuel than there is air in the engine. So if your mass airflow sensor is not giving the right information, it might, you know, cause your car to give out black smoke. So a dirty air filter can also cause your car to have black smoke because not enough air is going in. But if you've got a clean air filter and all your other checks, you know, are intact, then you might have to look at the mass airflow sensor, and that might be the reason why your car is producing black smoke as you are driving. A mass airflow sensor is definitely a very vital component of your car, and definitely your car will let you know if you're having a problem with the mass airflow sensor. You get a check engine light, and obviously when you plug it to the diagnosis machine, it will be able to tell you if there's a problem with your mass airflow sensor. But those are also some signs and symptoms that you can also check in case you don't get a check engine light. Sometimes these things just get dirty. This one is in a pretty good state, but some of them get dirty, and because it's a very sensitive part in the little wires that, you know, sit on the inside of it, it's a very sensitive part. So even if it gets just some dirt and stuff, it might not throw a check engine light, but you still see some of these signs and symptoms, and you can go ahead and check if it's the mass airflow sensor. So if you're having any problems with your mass airflow sensor, or any of the signs and symptoms that I've given you guys on this video show up on your car and you can't figure out what the problem is, if it's not the mass airflow sensor, you can definitely come through here to Z Gear HQ, which is Tunex Automotive, and we can sort it out. That's for any Japanese, German vehicle, whatever vehicle it is. We've got diagnosis machines and all the stuff that we need to get your car back on the road. As usual, I hope somebody learned something from this video. If you did, leave a like and share this video with somebody who would like to learn about mass airflow sensors, and I will see you guys on the next one.